in a unification bout, we've got Kenny Omega defending his international title against Kazuchika Okada's continental title. We're going to have a new AEW unified champion. And Jeff, this is a match that wrestling fans far and wide have celebrated, commemorated. I mean, when you think about great trilogies in movies, you think about things like Die Hard and other various movies. But when you think about professional wrestling, trilogies are pretty rarefied air when it comes to high profile matches that people expect and respect. So we've got, of course, perhaps most famously, The Rock and Stone Cold Jeff at WrestleMania 99, really before The Rock was at his peak. And then, of course, in 01, where Austin turned heel. And then famously, what we all felt like after the fact was going to be Austin's last match in 2003. But we also saw, perhaps most famously, Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. They celebrated 1989 in true trilogy style. It was a series of matches that a lot of people who were there for the early matches would say, those in 89 didn't quite compare. But still, if you were a national television wrestling fan, the idea that you got to see those matches, whether it was on pay-per-view or it was on Clash of the Champions, they were celebrated. And it established, Jeff, almost like a high watermark. This is the gold standard of trilogies. And then, gosh, like nearly 30 years later, here comes Kenny Omega and Okada. And it does feel like that became the new gold standard for professional wrestling matches. As far as trilogies and famous trilogies, Okada and Omega, they kind of had it wrapped up. Now, if you weren't really a New Japan fan, maybe you didn't miss it. Maybe you missed this. But Kenny Omega has one victory. Okada has one victory, and there's a draw. So what we're going to see in a couple of weeks, Jeff, is really, for all intents and purposes, the tiebreaker. You know, Okada has won one, Kenny has won one, and now there's a tie. And I know you're not exactly a betting man, but hypothetically, if you were, and I want you to take your pro wrestling skin off for a minute and just put your wrestling fan hat on because you're a fan first and foremost. What do you think is going to happen? Is Kenny Omega going to break the tiebreaker? Is he going to stand tall as the brand new AEW unified champion? Or is it Okada? If you're a betting man, Jeff, what would you bet?
Good question, Connie. Good question. You know, and I've done some press here lately, and however it came up, I said, you know, at the end of the day, you can slice and dice professional wrestling so many different ways. But right now, I don't think there is a question in wrestling fans' mind on who does pay-per-view best. And I just got to say, at the end of the day, when you stack all the odds or all the layers, and, you know, when you look at great trilogies or good matchups or heated rivalries, all that, and you have a guy like Omega and, you know, going through that serious health situation, health scare. I don't want to call it just an injury, a sickness, an illness, a surgery, the recovery time. How much did that really tax him? He has come back strong. Has he, and I'm, you know, may not know every match since he's come back, but man, who's he going to face? I mean, has he faced anybody at this level? Has he, you know, since his comeback? So layer that in there. Okada, you have to say, would be the visiting team. I think, yes, Kenny's Canadian, but, you know, I think Omega would call this the home court. But is there a youth factor, a recovery factory, an injury factory? At their very core of it all, who wants it the most? Like, who is at this stage of both of guys, their careers, who's the most comfortable in their legacy? Or does one of them really look at it and say, you know what, I really want this win to cement my legacy in my mind? And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters to those two guys. Where do they stack up in their mind? So if I'm a bet man, Conrad, which I'm not, but on this, I just think it's going to be very, 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 very hard to bet against Kenny Omega, because I just believe, Okada, the greatest tournament wrestler maybe in history, but when it comes right down to it, and Omega coming back, in a lot of ways, he thought he might not ever wrestle again. So maybe having a new lease on life. He's dialed in Okada with the wife and family and maybe everything that goes with that. I'm going to tip the cap to a man, Kenny Omega, to get his hand raised at the end of the night and be the first unified champ.
I'm really appreciative, Jeff, that you mentioned the word legacy. I am curious, is that something that you worried about earlier in your career? Do you worry about it now? And when did the paradigm shift, so to speak, with all that you've accomplished and done in wrestling, whether it's being a tag team champion, an intercontinental champion, a top guy, pay-per-view main events, the world champion, what have you? You've sort of done it all. When does the word legacy really enter your vocabulary? Because that's not something that you hear younger wrestlers necessarily talk about. But I do think, man, with the benefit of hindsight, as we get older, I'm 44 years old now. I can sort of blink and remember when I was 34 and when I was 24 and almost when I was 14. And it's like, man, as an athlete, it really passes you by. When did you start thinking about the word legacy, Jeff?
I hate to tell you this, but you'll probably understand once I roll it out. To this day, if I wasn't doing this podcast, I wouldn't give it a second thought. I've never been a guy to look in the rearview mirror. I've really never given it a thought. And people who've listened to this podcast really understand that in 2002, my mindset on launching TNA Wrestling was my exit strategy. One of the reasons out of the ring at an early age. My dad only really wrestled for about 8 years actively. And so me being, now a third generation, my mind was always on the transition and what's next in my, I'll call it my, business life or non-active role life. But doing the podcast and look, social media and YouTube and the streaming world and the libraries and the constant feedback and our great My World listeners that, we get to engage with, they're the ones that kind of have gotten it front and center and doing this podcast. Who's your Mount Rushmore? Who's this? Who's that? You know better than anybody. I wasn't even really interested in doing a pod because I didn't think, nobody wants to hear these old stories, and whether it's a pay-per-view or match or rivalry or whatever it may be. So I still don't really give it a second thought because the legacy is what I just alluded to. I can't control nor want to control what others think. I'm powerless over that. It's totally out of my control. So I know one fan will have an opinion of my career that can be almost a 180 to others, and that's okay. That's what makes our wrestling business so fun and exciting. In my mind, though, I'm very proud of my body of work. A lot of people in this country aren't aware of my Mexico stuff. A lot of people, that have followed wrestling may not really understand a part of my legacy of the international business and the world and my thoughts and visions and all that kind of stuff. So I think legacy is a very strong word, but I'm proud of my career. I don't regret anything. If I had to go back in time, sure, I've screwed up a million times, but it brought me where I'm at today. And seriously, over the last couple of years, I've done things in the ring that in my wildest dreams, did I ever think I'd get to do in my late 50s. So trained today, very, very hard. And who knows, there may be another maybe future bucket list item that I get to cross off, but we'll see.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to savewithconrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at savewithconrad.com. Shoot me an email at conrad@savewithconrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105 or get yourself a quick quote. Even talk to a live person right now at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at savewithconrad.com.